Jerry, this was a lot of strange things going on all around baseball. Were you surprised how much activity happened here in the last couple of days?
This is a strange thing all around baseball. Yeah, really surprised actually. We 100% expected to execute the Taiwan Walker trade. You know, whether it be with Toronto or one of the other teams that had been in discussion with us. But roughly the last two deals with the Padres came a little bit unexpected. The Padres had called repeatedly on Austin Nola, and we had repeatedly rebuffed the interest. And ultimately, the return just became, too big for us to pass up in our minds. So the result of those discussions was understanding their interest in Taylor Williams, which led to the third deal. So, a really interesting 72 hours, to say the least. You know, the final days were pretty hectic, especially the last half hour or so.
Jerry, how much did Nola's value increase after he caught this many games? I know we talked in the offseason how many teams were interested, but to have him go out and catch a bunch of major league games and look pretty good doing it, how much did his value increase?
Exponentially. I mean, he did a ton for his value, and in addition to really, cementing himself as a real factor as an everyday major league player, regardless of what position he plays. And like everybody else in the organization, I love Austin Nola. What he represents, what he's about, the way he prepares, the performance that he brought us, but the way he went out and performed really took what was a whirlwind year and a half or so. He signed with us as a minor league free agent prior to the 2019 season, worked himself into being an everyday solution for us as a first baseman, and then quickly, pivoted to being an everyday catcher and did both of them exceptionally well while hitting. He's had a great run, and this was a difficult decision for us to make based on how good Austin's been here, but we felt like the return was pretty considerable.
Jerry, when you go through the process of making these deals and you're looking to access certain players, you probably come to the realization there's maybe some guys you just can't get for whatever reason. If I would have told you a week ago that Taylor Trammell might have been a guy that would float on your radar, would you have believed it?
I would not. And I will say this 100% with Taylor Trammell and with Ty France. We have been pursuing those players for years. So, as many phone calls as AJ made to me this last week about Austin Nola, I have made as many to him over the last, couple of years regarding Ty France. And our interest in Taylor Trammell dates back to his days as a high schooler. He was here for our pre-draft workout in 2016, was a factor on our draft board for one of our first two picks in that draft, where ultimately we took Kyle Lewis with our first pick and didn't get another chance at Taylor. And then honestly, through the course of our James Paxton negotiation with teams, Taylor was a player that we had identified as a very high interest and weren't able to land him at that point either. So he's a guy we've always had a lot of interest in and feel like he has a chance to be an exceptional player and a different skill set than the other outfielders we have, between K-Lou and Jared Kelnick, Julio Rodriguez, Jake Fraley, line up our outfielders and they all do many, many things well. Taylor is a little bit different. We think he has untapped power. He's also a very patient hitter who we feel like has top of the lineup type skills and is an above to well above average runner. And, the type of athleticism that really starts to permeate our outfield at all levels now is pretty notable.
Jerry, did you have more interest in getting guys that were closer to Major League ready at this time than you have in the past, or is that just coincidental?
I think coincidental. There are a couple of players to be named who aren't particularly close to the big leagues right now, especially seeing as they're not in the 60-player bubbles. And, in this case, Taylor, obviously, the fact that he was in Double-A last year puts him in a closer proximity, but we feel like he still has development left to undergo. And feel similarly with Andres Munoz that he's just 21 years old. And while he made what we think was a pretty special major league debut last year at 20. He won't pitch next year, I wouldn't think, till at least May. And, that gives us, some, I guess, something to look forward to and trying to finish off the tail end of his development. And then guys like France and Terrens, they're not too far removed from minor league play. We were just looking for the best players that we could get. And this happened to be built around multiple players who we've pursued for some time. And I didn't really think that when I asked for the players, it would be yes. So it was, we were thrilled to get all of them.
Does he step right in and catch for you regularly now, or what will his role be?
Yeah, he'll get the bulk of the reps for us through the month of September for sure. Luis he's a unique situation. If you just look at his major league line to date, it's not overly impressive. But you have to remember he was a 21-year-old Rule 5 right out of A-ball who endured a major league season that that's a tough jump to make, and he managed it. The Padres sent him back to A-ball to restart his development. And in the 2 years in minor leagues, he did nothing but hit. He got on base. He's got a very good approach. He's got some power, and he catches and throws. That was the original appeal back when he was a Rule 5. So makeup's good. He checks a lot of boxes, and we're going to give him an opportunity to catch and do the things that he's been doing through his last 2 years in development here in the big leagues.
Jerry, what was it about Ty France that sparked your interest now for a while, and how do you see him kind of fitting into the mix?
He can really hit. Ty, and this dates back to, also to college. He was a San Diego Stater, and he has hit everywhere he's ever been. Last year, he was a real popper for us with what he was doing at the minor league levels, and then we saw things we really liked in the big leagues. A pretty good judge of the strike zone. He's got real power. And the hit ability from line to line, it just sneaks up on you. He's probably not the athlete that Taylor Trammell is, but his performance, throughout his baseball life in the batter's box is really noteworthy. And so much so that in a deal where you're trading a major leaguer with a 900 OPS like we did with Austin Nola, you didn't have to look too far down the OPS meter to find what Ty France had been doing this year. So he's versatile enough to play multiple positions on the field. We feel like his natural position is likely to be third base, but he plays third base, second base, first base. We feel like he's athletic enough to stand out in the outfield as well, and confident that the bat really plays, and very much looking forward to getting him regular reps.
Do you feel he can move around the diamond and thrive, or ultimately would you like to get him to a position?
Ultimately would like to get him to a position. We have so many versatile players, the Dylan Moores and the Sam Haggertys, guys who are capable of thriving while they move around. But we do feel like that ultimately he is going to gravitate toward a position, and we're willing to move him around until we figure out where that position is.
Jerry, I don't know. Are you gonna have him go to Tacoma, and what would you like to see him try to accomplish there between?
I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't get the front end of that question.
Sorry, the Taylor, or do you intend to have him go to Tacoma, and what would you like to see him sort of accomplish over the next month?
Yeah, certainly he's going to go to Tacoma, and roughly we have to figure out where he is in his development because, with the exception of whatever we were able to see in the first spring training down in Peoria, which was not insignificant. He hit the ball hard and he had a very good first run in Major League camp. The only thing we know about the time he spent in the alternate site down at USD, I think, at the end of the day, he hits the ball hard. He's doing it in taxi squad camp. He did it in spring training. We don't really know much else about what's gone on in his development, and we have to get to know the player. And the best place to do that over this next month or so is probably going to be in Tacoma with our taxi team.
It did seem like he came on strong in the Texas League playoffs last year and did some damage. I know that there was some swing work the Reds wanted him to make, but it looked like reading some stuff that he kind of came on strong towards the end of last season.
Yeah, the Reds changed their hitting programs going into last season, and Taylor through the A levels, I think he had gravitated as high as, top 15 prospect in baseball by some of the third party systems. And, and then he went, I believe he underwent a pretty significant adjustment in his swing to try to elevate the ball more. Yeah, he's a physical, athletic young guy. He's 6'2", 215 or thereabout, and does hit the ball hard. So I think they were just trying to access some power. And sometimes that takes time. And swing changes aren't easy, even for exceptional athletes. So we're going to see where he is. And we believe that there was an uptick in the postseason. We believe that there was another uptick in spring training. And we're pretty excited to see where he is.
Jerry, if you look at the guys you gave up, DFA or Adams DFA small trade, Williams DFA waiver claim, Nola minor league sign, even Altavilla $250,000 sign. I mean, what does that say to your guys' kind of development, even at the MLB level, to get these guys to where they're tradable pieces after you acquire them when maybe a team gives up on them?
It's one of the things we take great pride in, and we talked about it on the podcast the other day. It's Andy McKay. It is our hitting and pitching specialists that do a phenomenal job. Guys like Trent Blank, like Connor Dawson, like that we have Jarrett DeHart previously. This was a strength of ours, and we feel like with Hugh Quattlebaum, with Max Wiener, this is something that permeates our organization, and it has become part of what we do in the big leagues. We don't consider that player development ends when the player reaches Seattle. We just continue, and it's a living, breathing effort by everybody. And I think of all the players that we dealt, the guy that most represents what the Mariners are about or have done over these last 3 years especially is Austin Nola. Austin Scotty has referenced him as a self-made player. But from the day he got here, whether it be Tony Arnerich and Dan Wilson working with him on his catching, his game calling, and all the time they spent, Hugh Quattlebaum and Jarrett DeHart working with him on what was his own swing change as he started to adjust his swing back in January, February of 2019, to what has happened to him here in the big leagues, whether that be working on the infield with guys like Perry Hill and Manny Acta, or what he's done in total working with our high performance people, training staff. I mean, it takes a village, and the whole village, including Austin Nola, were part of that. And, we were able to take a guy who really bloomed at a late stage in his life. And we were right place, right time, right people working with the right player. And I think the result is he is in a great place professionally, and we reap the benefits of that with what we think is a tremendous return in the trade.
Jerry, to be named later, when is later on those guys?
I'm sorry, Greg?
When will the players that be named later, when is the time frame on those guys?
We're hoping that, at least in one of the cases, that we're going to be able to announce that at the end of the month of September. But there's some nuances there. And the players to be named are obviously outside of the 60-man pool. And, we have at least discussed with Toronto some possibility that we might be able to get to that sooner than later, at least in the month. But with San Diego, we don't know. And, part of the nuance is that those teams, both of those teams, if the season ends today, are playoff clubs, and they need their pools to maintain depth for a playoff run and through the playoffs in the event that they run into injury or illness. So we'll be patient. We know the players are currently working. We do have oversight as to what they're doing in their development. Those players don't yet know that they will ultimately be with the Mariners, but we do have our hands on the steering wheel with their development right now.
Jerry, a bit with the moves that you made today, plus and leading up to today, but more so with what you've seen in 37 games and what's going on in Tacoma right now. How would you characterize where you are in the development plan?
I hate to say when you're not winning games at the major league level with the frequency that we would like, that it's going extraordinarily well, but it's going better than extraordinarily well for us. We have had, over the last year and a half, I'm not sure we could have painted a picture that has gone much better. Learning so much about our young players, watching prospects continue to develop, even what we're seeing down at the alternate site in Tacoma, with players like Jared Kelenic, with players like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, Brandon Williamson, Cal Raleigh, who've all been excellent in this camp, and adding talent to our system like Emerson Hancock, like Taylor Trammell, and it feels almost impossible to imagine that from the time we started this process in September of 2018 to where we are today, that it could have gone much better. Certainly we've not hit on everything that we've done, and we never expected to, and we know that attrition will not allow this to go 100% as we had planned, which is why continuing to create layers and waves and build that depth that's critical to building from within is an important factor, and we'll continue to do that.
Jerry, did you have any other kind of oars in the water with some potential moves? I mean, was there interest in some of your other guys besides the kind of the ones we know about? I mean, how close did you take it up to the deadline?
Well, the Taylor Williams deal, it was roughly our Nationals deal from last year, or the Diamondbacks deal from last year as well. It ran right up to the deadline, and I think we hit send at 12:59 on the Taylor Williams deal. The other players, we were asked quite a bit about many of our young players and opted not to have discussions on players we thought were part of this long-term core. And there were other players that were inquired on that we felt like made more sense for us than what we felt like the return was going to look like. And the players who are here with us now either make a ton of sense for us in the short or medium term, and the guys that we see part of our long-term foundation were never a question for us. It's we're excited about the group we're building, and frankly, and I mentioned it to a couple of you, when we made the Taijuan Walker deal, I really did think that we were probably done, and that would be the extent of our activity, but it took on a little bit of a different light over the weekend.
Jerry, just one more thing. Any more information for us on what's going on with the A's? Do you have any kind of how you guys are going to handle this the next couple of days as well with your team and workouts and all that stuff?
Don't really have much on it. Honestly, I've been up to my knees in trade discussions, but we do know that we won't play on Tuesday or Wednesday, and that at a league level, we will learn what's going to happen after that. So to this point, the only thing I know is we are not going to have a game on Tuesday or Wednesday. We are likely to have workouts with our group. I don't know when or where the A's will whether they will come to Seattle eventually or not, but I know they're not here now, and that's not the plan. So we'll wait and see where it goes, and I know we will have workouts because our guys, we want to keep them sharp, especially after the day down in San Diego.
Jerry, I know a lot of fans seem to think that with you're building these waves of young players you've accumulated or drafted or developed, that you'd love to graduate them to the big leagues. The truth is, you'll do some of that, but also I think the San Diego example of what they've done the last few days maybe is a potential blueprint of sort, that it gives you some surplus, maybe some guys to move, that maybe what they did this week could be you guys in a year or in 2 years. Do you have any thoughts on just how building up that farm could potentially access you finishing pieces for what you're trying to do?
Well, there's a lot of ways and reasons why you build depth in farm systems, and the Padres are now showing you one of those outcomes. They've done, and I think this was agreed to by all, they've done as good a job as anybody in baseball over the last half a dozen years in building incredible depth in a farm system. To be able to do what they just did over the last week or so, but particularly over the last 3 or 4 days, and still have a really good upper level minor league farm system and a playoff quality major league team that is loaded with young players and prime time stars, guys like Tatis and Machado, and I mean they're in a really good position. And then they've got young players, guys like Paddock and Patino, and those we haven't even seen yet. we think we're building along those same lines. And you know, I hope we're in a position that when we have the opportunity to gear up to win the World Series, that we have the type of prospect cachet that would allow us to go out and acquire some of the talent like San Diego just did. And whether you are developing players to be part of your everyday group, you know, be part of your bench and depth areas, or to address other areas of need because you had a surplus, those are all reasons why you build a strong and deep farm system. And hopefully we're moving in that direction.